time to answer them all at the end of the presentation. You can put them in the chat ahead of time if you want, or just write them down, and we'll again have that Q&A session here at the very end. On a side note, we are also going to be recording this meeting going forward, so just want to make sure everybody aware of that before we start doing so. You have it there, so we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, we have a message from our code compliance manager, Larry Roberts, and I'll let him start us off.
Hey there, I'm Larry Roberts with the City of Greensboro. I am your Chief of Compliance for Code Compliance, and tonight we're doing our first ever and first of its kind virtual Code Academy. So I appreciate everybody in attendance. I know that with this being the first time of us trying it, we may have some hiccups, may have some heartburns. This will be a trial and error run, so I'm going to tell you now, I appreciate your patience in advance. We have Jared LaRue, who is our program supervisor for code compliance, who's going to be kind of running the show. He'll lead off and break things down for us, and as things progress, we'll have other inspectors get a turn to go over housing, nuisances, vehicles, zoning, things that kind of represent our department. And Christy Holt, who is our administrative manager, she will be handling the moderating. So if you have a question, submit it in, and Christy will go through there, and if we feel that it's appropriate for the code compliance presentation, we'll definitely get to it. And if for whatever reason, if we do not get to your questions tonight, then we will, by all means, have our link to our website, and we'll leave our phone number. So if we miss you and we didn't feel like you got your questions answered, by all means, email us or call the office, and we'll definitely get those things addressed. And like I said, tonight's the first ever virtual, and I'm really excited about getting this kicked off. And I know that Jared has put a lot of time into it. Christy has put a lot of time into it. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. I know the city manager's office is very supportive of this, and I know our city council is also very supportive of it, who some may be in attendance tonight. So like I said, I hope everybody enjoys, and this is a trial and error. I hope it goes as smooth as possible. And I know with IT things, sometimes that can be a hit and a miss, but regardless, I hope everybody enjoys tonight, and it's a very learning field experience. Y'all have a great night. And again, I'm Larry Roberts. If you need to reach out to me, all our information will be provided tonight, and I look forward to hearing from you. And again, enjoy. Thank you.
And thank you for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to do so. If you're not familiar, the city of Greensboro is, of course, divided into 5 separate council districts. And within those districts, we've also subdivided our code staff. So in District 1 in Southeast Greensboro, we have Field Supervisor Matt Peel and his team of currently 3 full-time inspectors. In District 2 in Northeast Greensboro, we have Supervisor Roddy Covington, who's here with us tonight, and his 3 inspectors. And then Districts 3, 4, and 5 in Northwest and Southwest Greensboro, we have Mark Wayman as their supervisor, with each of those districts currently having 1 full-time staff member, but we also utilize our rosters or part-time staff in that area to kind of bridge that gap. And the reason why you're going to see more code officers in those eastern districts is just because we get more complaints in those areas, so we have to have more staff there in order to keep that same level of service. Just some basic information about code compliance, where you can find us, how you can reach out to us. I'll say this: if you just have a general code question, you can call into our city contact center at 336-373-2489. Again, 336-373-2489 for the city contact center. It's a great number to have in general. If you just have a basic city question, you're not sure where to go, they'd be more than happy to direct you where you need to be. You can also call us directly at area code 336-373-2111. See the email listed there where you can reach us directly. The email and all that information, of course, is available on the city's website. There is a portion on the city's website where you can just report a violation as well. We'll get into some of the details about what those specific violations are here briefly. but it will just ask some basic questions, ask you to provide a name and a phone number or other means of contact, such as an email address, in order to submit that complaint. And one of our admin staff will follow up with you as soon as they're available to do so. So in general code compliance, what we do here, we go over minimum housing. So minimum housing could be the owner occupied property, tenant occupied, a vacant home, as well as non-residential properties. Our nuisance complaints are typically about tall grass or other uncontrolled vegetation. We're also going to deal with the unapproved storage on the exterior property, items like yard waste, building materials, auto parts, other items that are going to cause environmental issues if they're left there long term are really what we're trying to look at. Anything that's covered under the ordinance there. We're going to deal with junked and abandoned motor vehicles. Junked would be vehicles on private property. Abandoned motor vehicles would be typically ones in the right of way or in the city street. Deal with front yard parking, and we'll go into a lot more detail with that here in just a little bit, as well as illegal dumping, which would be somebody disposing of items inappropriately on city or even vacant properties, privately owned property, wherever the case may be, as well as our zoning enforcement. The majority of our cases are generated from a complaint basis. So that'd be a tenant or a neighbor calling about a property that they're either living in or maybe one in their neighborhood, maybe one they drive by on a regular basis. We also get referrals from the police department, fire department, social services, and various other city departments such as field operations, parking enforcement, Department of Transportation. Read some numbers previously. We average about 6,000 cases per year for the housing, nuisance, and vehicle cases, and we produce about 30,000 letters annually based off of that. I will say this was done before we added zoning, so obviously with zoning, that's going to increase those numbers even more. And our team averages between 25 to 30,000 inspections per year, currently between a total of 9 full-time and 3 part-time inspectors. Purpose of these local ordinances, of course, to keep everybody safe and happy and healthy. And it's for all the Greensboro residents. We realize that sometimes this can come off a little harsh, but realize that if you ever were to receive one of these violations, it's ultimately because these ordinances were put in place to better the city of Greensboro as a whole. And from here, I'm going to hand it off to Angela DeBose, who's going to start talking about Chapter 17 in our nuisances.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let's talk nuisances. Now you can find what constitutes a nuisance and with examples in Chapter 17 of our city ordinance. Now, what we do as a complaint comes in, our admin will go ahead and open a case, assign it to an inspector, and then send out what's called a courtesy notice. Basically, this is a heads up to the owner that that violations were reported on their property, and then they'll annotate or make note of which violation it was, and then give them a somewhat of, not really a specific time, but mostly a time frame when the violation needs to be corrected, as well as letting them know that the inspector will be there as well to do an official inspection. Now, when the inspector gets there, what we look for is grass, weeds, and vegetation that's over 12 inches, as well as trash on the property, and indoor furniture, indoor appliances stored outside, as well as standing water, unsecured buildings, abandoned buildings, vehicles, abandoned vehicles, as well as junk vehicles. Now, when the inspector goes out there and inspects, and if violations are found, what we do is post what's called a notice of violations. Now, the owner will get two notices, one physical that's posted right there on his property, as well as a certified letter in the mail. Now, for the posting, what we do is we put, of course, the information of the address where the violation was found. We mark all violations that were found on the property, give a brief description of what needs to be done to clear the violation, and then we assign a due date. Now, the due date for a nuisance, for instance, like tall grass, household trash, combustibles and stuff, we give them 10 days to clear the violation. Now, we as inspectors will come back out on the 11th day because we're giving them that full 10 days to clear the violation. Also on the posting, we'll put our contact information, because let's say that the owner has the majority of the violations done, but just needs a little bit more time. We ask that they give us a call, and then possibly we could issue another 10-day extension. Next slide. Now, here's just some examples of violations that we can find. Trash on the property. It looks like this was a move out. We got tall grass, tall vegetation, and these are just some examples of violations. Now, let's say we come back out on the 11th day, and these violations are still found on the property. What we're going to do is what's called abate the property. That means we're going to assign a contractor to come out and clean the property. And then there'll be a lien assessed against the property. Now, a small breakdown of the charges is going to be whatever the contractor charges, plus a minimum charge of $100 or 10% of the contractor's fee that would also be charged to clean up. Next slide. Okay, unsecured properties. Okay, now an unsecured property will constitute either open front door and back door or no doors at all, open or broke windows, anything that can cause, that allows a person to enter the building or enter the dwelling. Now, we consider this a violation because once found, this opens up a dangerous situation for children, attracts vagrants, persons intend for criminal activities or criminal activities or activities that will constitute a public nuisance. Now, what we do here is just like what we did up above. We'll post the property with a placard stating that the building or the house needs to be secure. And again, we'll give them 10 days, a full 10 days, and we'll be back out on the 11th day. Now, again, if we come back out on the 11th day and the house is still unsecured, again, we'll go ahead and abate the property, assign a contractor to secure the building, and then again, owner will have to pay for it. Next slide. Now, fallen trees. Okay, when it comes to fallen trees, when we come out to inspect, the only way we can actually issue a notice of violations is if the tree is actually on the ground or on the house. If it's still standing and it hasn't exactly fallen yet, we can't issue anything. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until it's on the ground. Again, we'll issue the notice of violations, have the owner give him 10 days to clear the violation. And again, if it's not cleared, we'll go ahead and abate the property, where we'll assign a contractor and have them clear or remove the tree. This one. Again, this is just another example of what it looks like. We have a standing tree, and then what it looks like when it's fallen to where we get involved, and we can go ahead and issue a notice of violations. Unsafe buildings. As you can see with this building, it's on the verge of collapse. This one, we will go ahead and issue a notice of violation, but here, the owner's going to have to do a little bit more than just secure. He's going to have to make sure that there is no way anybody can have access to that building at all, because it's a severe danger to the public. Okay, so let's see. Again, what we would require, what would be ideal, is if the owner go ahead and put a fence around that whole building, front and back side, so it absolutely stops anybody from entering the building. Next slide. All right, vehicles. junk and abandoned vehicles, beginning with the junk vehicles. Now, what constitutes a junk vehicle? It's when they don't have current tags and meets one of the three following criteria. It has to be dismantled or wrecked, cannot self-propel, and is stated in the ordinance more than 5 years old and value less than $500. Now, a junk vehicle can be on the property or even in the street. Again, when it's in the street, how it constitutes as a junk vehicle, again, if it's damaged, up on uh, dismantled, or it looks like it's in the process of being repaired, up on jacks. Now, abandoned vehicle, mostly we consider this vehicles in the street. Now, that's something, vehicles that are constitute an abandoned vehicle is left on city property for more than 24 hours, left on a city or highway street longer than 7 days, or left on private property without the consent of the owner for longer than 2 hours. Again, now when it comes to both a junk vehicle and an abandoned vehicle, what's different here is we will post the vehicle. We'll go ahead and annotate the violation. We'll give them a time frame when it needs to be cleared. But the difference here is where it comes to nuisance like tall grass or trash, we give them 10 days. For vehicles, we actually give them 7 days. But it's the same situation applies. If it looks like that the owner needs a little bit more time, our contact information is on the placard. They can give us a call and we can issue them another 7 days. Slide. And that's it for nuisances.
Thank you, Angela. One other thing I will mention related to the vehicle process is we do allow for the owners of the vehicles to claim their vehicle. Typically, we hold them for at least 30 days. It's usually closer to 45. Where the owner can come to our office, present proof of ownership of the vehicle in their name, such as a title or up-to-date registration, bill of sale, indicating, yes, this vehicle, without a shadow of a doubt, belongs to me. Typically, our fees are about $175, and that's for the duration that we have the vehicle. I believe during the last week, there's an extra surcharge of $25. And Christy, you can come off and correct me if that's incorrect, but that would be because typically at that point, our vehicle has already been prepared for the auction in order to be disposed of. The owner hasn't already claimed it at that point. It is at a separate location. But we're going to go in and talk about Chapter 11, which is our minimum housing code. So again, the majority of these cases are originating from tenants who are upset because their repairs are not being made as they've requested of their owner or property manager. When we go out for that initial inspection, we're looking for reasonable cause. So we need to have more than 5 minor violations or 1 major violation according to the housing code, and that's laid out in our ordinance. That would start that kind of standard housing case where we're going to start sending letters to the owner, giving them an opportunity to comply, bring the property back up to code. We also have more emergency situations, like a situation where property maybe not have heat, may not have an active water source, plumbing. They may not have power for any number of reasons, or they could have had a major emergency, such as the tree we saw earlier that hit a house and immediately made that property unsafe for anybody to live in it. We may issue an emergency condemnation when that type of situation comes up, and that's really for the safety of the occupants and or owner, whomever was residing in that property. We're going to look at some of the exterior, the actual structure itself, the interior of the structure, immediate property grounds, so things like sidewalks, walkways, handrails, guardrails. Realize that we do not have the ability to enforce mold or mildew specifically, but we do check for air quality and for whatever the cause of that mold or mildew may be. So typically we're dealing with a roof leak, plumbing leak, something that's causing moisture to build up in that home and cause that unclean, unsanitary condition in one or more rooms of the home. In situations where we do have that reasonable cause and more than five minor or one major violation, we're going to go ahead and start a housing case. Up front, what that requires us to do is request a title search on the property. So we're going to get whomever's listed with the tax records as the owner, as well as any other potential parties of interest. So this could be a lien holder on the property, and any other agency that may have a financial interest in the property. They're all going to get a notice. And if we're dealing with a tenant originated situation, we're also going to send notice to that tenant in those types of cases. So again, we're going to start with that initial notice of hearing. That hearing is not a court-appointed meeting or anything to that effect. It is a meeting with our staff. Should anybody involved with the case have any questions, concerns about what our process and procedures entail going forward, that's got to be held within 30 days of the date of the initial inspection. After which time, if the repairs have not been completed, we're going to issue an order to repair. And that order to repair is going to give them another 30 days in order to show that progress is being made. So at that point, we're going to need to do a reinspection of the property, see have violations been corrected, yes or no. If so, we're going to make a judgment call based on what we're seeing. Perfect example I can give you: if you've spent close to 60 days as an owner, and the only thing you've done was replace some batteries and a smoke detector, while yes, that's a great thing you've done, it's not really an idea that you've taken the time and means necessary that we've given you to make a good faith effort to repair the property and bring it up to code. If that happens, we may move forward with issuing a placard to condemn the property or make it unfit for human habitation, as seen here in this photo, and proceed beyond that. But if the owner is making repairs, is showing that they're taking a good faith effort, they've gotten estimates for repairs, they've got a date that they see that the repairs are going to be started, and they're able to provide documentation accordingly, in addition to having maybe taken care of some of the small stuff that they can do on their own without a needed permit, we can work with them. We can give them up to 2 30-day extensions up front, and then any additional extensions beyond that from the inspector would need to be approved by their immediate supervisor. So that just means we got another set of eyes that's taking a look at the case, saying, yes, this does warrant us continuing working with the owner in this situation, giving them the time necessary because they're doing what they need to do, or they're trying to make the repairs and bring it back up to code. If the order does expire, our next step would be to bring the property before the Minimum Housing Standards Commission. It's a quasi-judicial board that makes decisions on these properties based on the evidence that we provide to them, as well as any other testimony that may be given by an owner or other parties involved with the property at that time. We're going to issue either an order to repair or demolish based on an estimate we've gotten on that property to see, are the repairs or estimated cost of those repairs less than or more than 50% of the tax value of the structure itself. Now, that is not taking into consideration the property grounds at all, just the structure or structures that may be there listed. Some additional aspects of code compliance that we deal with here. We're going to talk about a couple of these in a little bit more depth, but front yard parking, illegal dumping, our neighborhood 2 blocks program, demolition, as well as non-residential inspections. So the front yard parking ordinance was started back in July 2016, and this is to address the front yard only of the property. That means any grass or other non-paved, non-graveled surface in the front yard. If you imagine there's a imaginary line going across the front of your house, headed back out towards the street, that is going to be what's considered your front yard. So anything that, again, does not have pavement there of any shape or form, does not have gravel with a well-defined border, is going to be considered your front yard. So whether that's grass, dirt, plant life, whatever the case may be. With these, the resident and or owner may choose to pave up to 40% of that area in order to allow for front yard parking. Anything beyond that needs to go before the planning board for approval before doing anything to that effect, because they may deny access to parking beyond that 40% of that front yard area. Violations may result in a $50 parking ticket after an initial warning is issued. and realize that this follows the uh, vehicle itself as opposed to the vehicle owner. So if you acquired a vehicle from someone that had already been issued a warning, you could be subject to a penalty going forward if the vehicle is parking in your front yard beyond that. And here's the pamphlet that we have. If we were in person here, obviously we'd have these on hand, but you're welcome to stop by our office at any time and pick one of these up. Does a really good job of outlining what the front yard is. As you can see on this kind of third panel here, it also designates those corner lots as having a continued front line that goes to about the back side of the home and back out towards the street, whether or not there was a driveway. So again, that front yard for a corner house extends beyond just what you may typically think of as that front yard. We do deal with some illegal dumping here in code as well. We work really hard with our field operations division or department to identify properties and or personnel that may be performing this illegal dumping. So best case scenario I could tell you would be, let's say there's a vacant house or lot in your neighborhood that somebody just came by in the middle of the night, threw a bunch of stuff out, whether it be from a move out or they just decide they didn't want to go to the dump and pay the fees to properly dispose of these items. These repeated illegal dumpings can warrant us going out and installing cameras as well to kind of survey the area in hopes that we get some type of information from whomever may be doing this dumping. And if we do find out who that is, we can issue fines and penalties to the listed party in order to help get them to stop doing this going forward and to properly dispose of those items. In May of 2023, we started our neighborhood toolbox program. This is designed honestly for situations that we deal with on a regular basis. So a good example would be I come out and I cite you for your grass being overgrown. You don't have a mower, you don't know anybody that you can borrow one from, and you don't have the money to pay for somebody to come by and cut your grass. This gives you an opportunity to come out, borrow a mower, blower, trimmer from us, get that work done at your property, and then return the equipment back to us afterwards. So we're having an end to the means that we're creating here, and so that we're not creating an additional deficit or debt for that resident, as long as they're willing to take care of it. And this could be for a tenant or an owner-occupied property. As long as you're a Greensboro resident, can provide us with an ID showing so, we're more than happy to loan this equipment out to you. We'll get that program started back up around March 1st of this year. And here I'm going to hand it off to Savon Nill, our resident zoning inspector.
Good evening, everybody. This is Savon Nill. I am a zoning officer, and what we do with the zoning enforcement is we enforce the land development ordinance. And what that land development ordinance means is that anything that is the right to use the land. So if anybody's seen zoning signs anywhere, it is basically a request about how that land is being changed and or used in different ways, whether it's commercial or residential. What I like to do tonight is go through some slides and show you some pictures to see if anybody can tell me some zoning problems and locate the problems with these pictures. Jared, if you'll move forward. And it'll be spot the violation. And we'll be interactive here. So if you want to raise a hand and or type into the message, we'll see if anybody can figure out what's wrong here and what a zoning officer would do. I'll give you a moment to do that. All right, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. It looks like it's a safety violation. because the fence is going to fall down and maybe hurt somebody. Thank you.
All right, you're right there, Mike. As far as zoning, we enforce fences. This is going to be ordinance where the fence has to be in good repair. The way to get this into compliance would be either to remove the fence entirely and or replace it so that it is not broken or in disrepair or rotten in any sense. Got another question, Mike?
No, I was trying to take my hand down. I hit the button wrong. Thank you.
No worries. All right, so we'll move to the next one. Anybody can tell me what this looks like here. What's going on over at this property? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'll give it another shot. More than 40% of the front of the yard is covered in concrete, and I don't know about that telephone pole. Thank you.
Yep, you're right. So a lot of people will build and pour concrete or build structures that are not permitted, and they didn't get the zoning approval for this. So a lot of the times they will build, and then we would have to come out and see if they had permits for these things. And a lot of times they don't. There are multiple ways of getting around this. One of the ways that this owner could have gotten more than 40% is if he went through the planning process and applied for a variance. The variance would allow that. If you could see to the right, well, let me take that back. The variance would allow that if everybody were to agree on it within that particular neighborhood and depending on setbacks and other regulations, just like that telephone pole. Could be something that telephone pole is not right. And if you can see the curb, you can see that the curb isn't cut in a particular order or way that would make it safe to be able to drive upon. Also, the right side of that house is also considered driveway as well because it's impervious surface. So that would be the entire front yard for us. This particular owner had to spend a lot of money putting it down and then removing it to be in compliance. We'll go to the next one. All right, someone want to take a shot at this one? Okay, Rich, go ahead. Travel RV. So what's wrong with the travel RV? Not so much standing water, not a permanent residence. You're right. So RVs are recreational use. They are not for permanent residence. And there we have a lot of those times to where these folks will have something they said, hey, I can live in here for a while, or they may have situations where some things are happening and they think that this is a cheaper way of doing some things as far as a living standard. RVs are not considered something that you can live in for zoning, and it's not approved for living in on a residential property or any property in the city of Greensboro. Most of the time we'll find this, and it's not that you can't keep this at your house, it's just that you can't live in it full time. So you're right about that. Good job. All right, how about this one? Any guesses what this might be? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for letting me in. It looks like it's just a shack with a pallet on top of a couple boards. Not a permanent residence, no walls, no doors, no windows. Thank you.
You're correct, Mike. And Taylor, you're right as well. There's no curb cut. This is a vacant lot. Somebody has made a structure here, and on a vacant lot, you cannot have anything built or stored on a vacant lot without a primary structure. Um, and so, in order for us to remedy a lot of these things, is that we go out there, we take a look, we send out a notice of violation, and we give them 30 days. Once we give them 30 days, they generally let us know what they're planning to do, and we'll try to work with them and remedying and getting this, in compliance. However, sometimes that we don't get it, what our process is that we continue to fine every 15 days until we get to a certain number where we have to go into injunction, which means that the city has to take this particular owner to court. We like to be able to solve everything without having to do that and without having to charge so much. There are other things that you can do is, like I said, apply for variances for certain things. A lot of people are renting properties and renting land, and they think that they can apply for variances, but only the owner can do that. So ownership is very much key to how you would change your land use. I believe that's the last one. I don't know if we have another one. Do we, Jared?
That's it. Thanks, Savon.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So again, as you can see in code and zoning, we're really dependent upon you and your neighbors to be our eyes first and foremost. Primarily, we are a reactive department as opposed to a proactive department. A perfect example I can give you, though, of us being proactive would be, let's say you called in about a lot that's overgrown, and maybe you gave us a wrong address, or the address next door is in a similar circumstance. We can go ahead and open a case. If there's an additional one, close out the previous one if it was incorrect information, and go ahead and get that item addressed. By the same token, if we got a complaint about a junk motor vehicle on the street and there's one right next to it in a similar circumstance, we can probably go ahead and tag it as well at that time, get them hopefully both removed from the street and or brought up to code, and resolve that situation with someone not having to call each of them in individually. So I would ask that if you're gonna call, email us with some specific issues, as much information as possible will be greatly appreciated. So for a vehicle, you can get us color, make, model of the vehicle, as well as the address where it's located. Is it on the street? Is it in the driveway? Front yard, backyard, wherever the case may be. For the complaints about nuisances, are we looking at something like tall grass? Is it tall grass only in the backyard? Is it automobile parts, building materials, yard waste accumulating at the curb, like from a move out, or is it again in the back? There will be some situations where if it's a fenced in backyard, it's going to take the residents' cooperation and or some additional steps in order to get us back there in order to conduct that inspection properly, and realize that it's just going to be a little bit more involved. It may not be as quick a turnaround for every case because it may take us having to go out and get an administrative warrant, locksmith, and or other means to access the property in order to verify the complaint and issue those notices accordingly. So again, you guys, your local services like the fire department, police department, Department of Social Services, your neighborhood association, you all are our eyes and ones we're dependent upon to help us out when these types of situations creep up. You can try to address them with the neighbor, but if they're not cooperative or they don't want to do anything about it, don't hesitate to call us out. I'll leave some contact information up here again for us and for zoning enforcement. At this point, we'll open it up. If anybody has any questions, I didn't see any in the comment section, but feel free to raise your hand and we'll take you in that order. Lost Karen there for a second. I apologize. There we go. Okay. Mike, go ahead, bud.
Thanks, Jared. Hey, I got a next door neighbor that has an outdoor shed. Well, it used to be a garage and then changed it into a small apartment long time ago. So this building actually has insulation and inside plasterboard. Well, over the years, they haven't taken care of this building, and the siding on the outside has fallen off. The insulation's gone, and you're actually looking at the inside of the outside of the plasterboard being exposed to the elements. Plus, we've got a rodent problem in that underneath of that structure as well. Would that be something you guys would look into? Thank you.
Yeah. So it's probably going to be a couple of different venues we're going to go through to get something like that addressed. One, was the conversion made properly? Did they pull permits that were required? Did they have electrical running to the structure? Do they have proper plumbing there at the structure? Do they have proper heating there at the structures? Not a space heater, an actual HVAC air supply to the dwelling. Those are the kind of questions we're going to look at up front. It may be our building inspections division gets involved because there wasn't a permit and work was done. It may be that we have them remove all circumstances of somebody residing in that area. So they set up like a makeshift kitchen, bathroom, sleeping facilities. There's a lot of it that we're going to look at to see, okay, is this property habitable, one, and able to stay as it is? And then two, if it is, all right, now we're going to start looking at, does it meet minimum housing code? So that's where the exterior conditions that you were mentioning are going to come into play, and we're going to be looking for that more than 5 minor violations or the 1 major violation. So the stuff Saban spoke about earlier, we may be getting zoning involved there as well. Do they meet the proper setback requirements for the structure itself? And is there enough living space in there based on the number of occupants, whether it be 1 or more people there? Kind of dictates based on the square footage how many people are allowed to live there. So are they over occupying the area is another thing we're going to take into consideration there, Mike.
Thank you, Jared. I may contact you on the side after this and talk to you about it. This structure has been this way since I'd say the mid 60s. So I'm not sure how and when and everything like that. So I'll contact you on the side on this and then we can go a little further. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for the question. Karen, saw you a little bit. I don't know if you still have a question or not. You're welcome to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just real quick. At the beginning of your presentation, you had, I think it was either supervisors or inspectors in each council district. And districts 3, 4, and 5 only had 1 to cover all that area. Is that because they have less issues in those areas, or are you short on manpower, or what's the reasoning there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number of complaints in districts 3, 4, and 5 are vastly lower than what we see in council districts 1 or 2, which is why we have more staff there, even in smaller land areas. So we did a study, it's probably been 10 years ago now, but there's almost a crescent of kind of activity that we see kind of stemming from northeast Greensboro, sweeping southwest back to southwest Greensboro, kind of encapsulating the middle of downtown around it. So that's tends to be the area that we see the most complaints, and so that's why we've stuck more of our staff there, just to keep up with the number of complaints that we get. Of course, if we ever see that there is a fluctuation in that, and we've done this just last year or 2 years ago now, I guess it was, we've adjusted those workspaces. So inside of each of those council districts are also census tracts. They're smaller areas of land. And we can adjust those areas by making them smaller or larger by moving a census tract maybe from one inspector to another in order to either alleviate an overburdened inspector and or to add more to that inspector that may be seeing less cases going forward to more evenly distribute our work.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Anyone else with any questions here?
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Laura.
This is Belinda.
Belinda, my apologies. Yep, sorry.
I'll go after.
Okay, go ahead, Belinda.
I just could you put that information back up that Miss Karen just spoke about?
Yep,
The supervisors in District 1 and 2. From the beginning, I missed those.
That's
I
okay.
got it right. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Laura.
Okay. I'll send it out to the concerned citizens also, Belinda.
All right, thanks.
You get an email. Hi, Jared.
Hi.
Okay. I did turn in, and I see why the more complaints are in District 1 and District 2 especially. One thing is because we have a lot of habitat homes in the area. And I don't think I've talked to you and more of the city about this, even my city council people. I don't think Habitat for Humanity educates those people they put in those houses. Just like I had to turn in a guy on the back street from me. I live out here in the village at Northside, which is a very big subdivision. And he was selling tires in his backyard. I mean, he actually had a tire barn. You may have came out, Jared. I don't know who it was, but somebody came out. But he turned around and put it back up. So I'm going to turn him again. I'm going to keep turning him in until he takes that down, or you all make him take it down. He cannot sell tires in his backyard. He cannot even sell tires in his front yard. Now, something has to be done. I don't know what's going to have to be done. I've told y'all this a million times. With Habitat for Humanity, someone is going to have to talk to these people, to talk to the people they put in these houses, the homeowners.
I don't say, and I would love to reach out to Habitat and for them to give them something like this presentation here, or to have us speak with the residents. When this type of situation happens. That's kind of why we're doing these code academies, is for education for residents. I tell people all the time, I've been in code now for 20 years with the city of Greensboro. Before I came here, I had no idea even half of this stuff was anything the city enforced or had guidelines for. I never thought about what would happen if I didn't mow my grass every other week, and or what would happen if I didn't take care of my home, or if I left a vehicle with flat tires and no tags out on the city street. Part of our job is to educate people first and foremost about these ordinances. When we get these types of complaints, say, hey, look, this is why this is in place. This is how you can comply in this situation. Because ultimately that's what we don't want to become a burden on these residents at the same time by causing them undue hardships. We want them to be able to resolve this stuff on their own, or with maybe an outside agency's assistance. Sometimes it can be, hey, I've got this vehicle my dad owned, and it's, my only remembrance of him. I understand that. Let's try to find some way to resolve it amicably for everybody that brings it into code, whether that's one, taking it outside the city limits, putting it inside an enclosed structure, bringing the vehicle itself back up to code, however they can do so. Ultimately, if they come up with no plans and make no moves, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove that vehicle in order to bring it into compliance. Once those time frames and any potential extensions have been given. But we're going to give them every opportunity to do so. And one of the things Angela talked about was that we can give an extension when those situations come up, but we're going to make sure that we're going to have justifiable reasons to give them an extension for any means if we're doing so.
Well, I
But
would appreciate it if you guys would talk with Habitat for Humanity. Like I said, Habitat for Humanity only exists in District 1 and District 2, especially District 2. And so you just said, I'm listening to everything you're saying. The majority of the complaints come out of District 2 and District 1. And I see why, because that is where the Habitat homes are. They're not in 3, 4, and 5. And most of those people, I'm going to say at least 80% of the Habitat homeowners, they are not from this country. So they don't understand the laws of the land, might I say. So I really hope somehow you all can talk with Habitat before these nightmares that we have to endure begin.
yeah, I'll touch base with Christy here. We'll talk about how exactly we're gonna address that. But you did hit on something that I think is very important for us. So, Greensboro is a huge hub for refugee
Yes.
populations here. Resettlement programs and things to that effect. And like I said, people that have lived here aren't aware of half of the rules and guidelines that we have in
So
place.
true.
But even more so, people that are kind of brought in under undue circumstances, even more so, especially because there may be a language barrier. Any city staff has access to the language line for interpretation. If we ever need to, we can also get documents translated into various languages. Our nuisance notices and our housing notices automatically come out in English and Spanish, but we have a huge Arabic speaking population, French, Vietnamese, which also includes various dialects. But we're happy to make those accommodations. And it means, hey, our inspectors may need to go from like 10, 15, 20-minute inspection to a half hour or more just because they're using that language line. And we're explaining to the resident in a way that they can understand what they need to do while we're out there in the first place and how they can comply. So, like I said, meetings like this and or community outreach is very important. If we can maybe partner with Habitat, I would love to give them a presentation like this, or at least let them know, hey, have your residents reach out to us, or have them take these pamphlets that we have. I hate that we're missing that with this being a bit of a virtual meeting, but we do have various pamphlets that explain the process and procedures and the things that we address here in code. Again, you're welcome to stop by our offices if you'd like to pick up some at some point.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Mike, you had something else?
Yes, Jared. We're also part of the Concerned Citizens of Northeast. Right now, the meetings that we've been having is discussing a lot of trash pickup, cleaning up a property that's owned by a corporation or some other individuals. Do we actually contact your office to try and get some kind of cleanup, a violation, anything like that?
That's where I would probably start with the city contact center, that 373-2489 number or 373 city. Because depending on the more specifics of that conversation may dictate, is it going to go to code? Is it going to go to solid waste management? Or is it going to go straight out to field operations and dealing with the actual pickup itself? Is something supposed to be serviced and it's not being serviced? Has that contract been voided? Or is it going to be up to code to come out there, cite the owner, give them a notice of violation and an opportunity to clean up themselves before we have to do so? There's not a singular answer I can give you to say it's definitely this or definitely that, but we're going to kind of go down our checklist to try to determine what's the best course of action. And a lot of times it'll be just, hey, at the very least, let's get an inspector out there, try to make contact with a resident or a property management company to see what the story is behind this and why this accumulation is occurring. Good question
Thank
there,
you,
Mike.
Jared.
Appreciate you.
you.
Absolutely. And Bev, I see in the comments, we'll get you a copy of the PowerPoint here. See, Mitchell, what do you do when you have several complaints and have been complaining for years, but nothing has changed? The city knows the person and property very well, but nothing changes. Without some specifics there, Mitchell, I can't say for sure what's going on. Yeah, if you want to call our office at the 373-2111 number, we can look up the past history of that property and or properties and find out what's going on. My initial guess would be it may be something that's not necessarily covered by the ordinance, or like we talked about during the presentation, it could be something that's not readily visible from the street, where we need specific access to a backyard, fenced in area, and maybe that hasn't been correlated when that conversation is had about that initial complaint. But we're more than happy to go into a little bit more detail and get that resolved for you one way or another, Mitchell. Last call. Anyone else have any questions here? Melinda, go ahead.
No.
Okay. If we don't have any more
Jared, thank
questions,
you so
yep.
much. This is Cece. I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you so much for doing a second one of these academies. I think tonight had much more structured questions, and we really appreciate you answering them.
Absolutely. Thank you for hanging out with us, CC. We appreciate you. I'll say this, this doesn't have to end the conversation here. Have conversations with your neighbors. You have a neighborhood organization, have them reach out to us. We can provide you with handouts to hand out to those in your neighborhood and organization as well. But again, as some of the residents talk about, some of these issues are kind of tailored into other organizations not doing everything they need to do up front and making people aware of what they need to do. There may be a language barrier involved. We're more than happy to make those accommodations and educate the residents here at Greensboro so that these issues and problems are less detrimental or less occurring less often for you and your neighbors. So by all means, again, don't let this conversation end here. Let us know if there's something we can do to help out. Call us, call the city contact center, stay informed about what the city can and can't do. We see a lot of times when newer areas are annexed into the city, residents who've been in the county for decades may not be aware that, hey, just throwing a tarp over a vehicle doesn't make it comply any longer because now they're in the city limits.
Jerry.
Yes, ma'am.
Jerry, would you be willing to come to one of our meetings to concern citizens? Because a lot of our people tried to get on this evening and they couldn't get on. So
Okay.
I would like to bring you all to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the secretary, so would you like to
Yeah.
come, or one or two of you, or how do you want to do it?
If it's not me, it could be one of us for sure. If you will, you got my information, Laura.
You gave me a card, but
Yeah. If not, I'll put my email here in the message.
yeah.
And
So if you or one of your fellow employees could come, our next meeting is March. Oh, here it is. I got your information. Our next meeting is March 5th, which is the first Thursday. March 5th, first Thursday in every month we have it. If March 5th is not agreeable with you, we can bring you another month. Whatever you want to do. But I would like for you to present this to the concerned citizens. There's only a few of us on tonight due to the fact a lot of them couldn't get on. I advise CC. But this is good information, and we need you to come.
We'll be more than happy to help out.
So, you want me to just text
If
you?
you want, Yeah, just give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Let me
It's at
know.
Peeler. It'll be at Peeler Center
At Peeler
at
Center.
6,
Okay.
at 6 o'clock. Will that give you all enough time? You get off at 5, is that right?
Yeah, some of us. I think myself and a couple others are here until 6, but
Well, we can move it to 6:30. We normally have it to at 6:30, but we had
Okay.
discussed having it at 6. But for the convenience of you all, we will have it at 6:30.
we appreciate that. But
Okay.
like I said, yeah, I think we're more than happy to come out. Whether it be code staff and a zoning inspector, perhaps to kind of cover all those bases with y'all.
Okay.
Or maybe just one of us at the very least. I think we'd be more than happy to come out and speak with your group
Okay.
as often as you need us to.
Well, I would like for you to come in March if that's possible. March 5th.
I think that should give us enough time. It's a little over 3 weeks, so we should be able to coordinate something along those lines.
The best part too, Jared, is by then we'll have both the commercial and hopefully the residential also by then. So the revised code, for some reason I can't speak, but the revised code should be done by then, voted in by then.
Okay.
That works.
And of course, if there's anything immediate like that, we may not be able to speak to it all specifically, but as we learn, we're more than happy to convey that message out to the masses.
Okay. Sounds good. So we have our executive board meeting on this Thursday. So can you let me know? I'm going to send you an email, and can you let me know who will be the speaker, whether it be you or someone else?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll send you an email shortly,
Okay.
and you can let me know before we go into our executive meeting, so we can put you on the agenda. You or whomever is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you, my friend.
CC, if you're still on, Taylor asked about when that vote was taking place, and I don't remember what dates you said.
Right. We're pushing for the commercial code to be voted on by the end of this month. So at the next council meeting, fingers crossed. But definitely by the first or on the first one of March.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commercials coming first, residential will be right behind it.
So Taylor, on one of the upcoming council meetings. So.
All right. Last call. Anybody else with any questions? Well, thank you very much for everybody for attending. I think we had roughly about 25 people, including our staff here. We'll be continuing these throughout the remainder of the year, in the remaining districts 3, 4, and 5. And this will probably be an annual thing for us going forward, in addition to any community meetings that we may get invited to, virtual or in person. And again, the biggest thing for us is to educate people and tell them, what we do, and how we can help going forward. I think one more hand up, April.
Yes, I'm sorry at this last moment, but
That's okay.
a friend of mine let me know about this Zoom today. How can I be added to the email list?
I don't think there was necessarily an email list outside of like our in-city internal staff.
Okay.
I did have a couple of people reached out to me after the first one, said they couldn't make it. They asked for follow-ups for this. So typically if we posted this stuff on the city website, on the city social medias as well.
Okay.
So we're trying to keep that information out as much as possible. I don't know it was necessarily mentioned at council meetings or not. I know they talked about after the first one happened, but you're more than welcome to reach out to our main office. Like I said, look at social media, look at our city website to try to keep an update on those events as they're posted.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Bev. I
problem.
saw that comment. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Bev. Thank you, April.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. We greatly appreciate y'all coming out and spending some time with us this evening, learning more about ins and outs of code and zoning here at the city of Greensboro. I hope you all have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
You too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Jared.
No problem.